Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our interactive webinar series. Today, we are navigating the expansion in vertical farming with our friends at Vertical Roots Canada. Mike and Becky, welcome. I will get to you in a couple slides here. As we said, this is an interactive website, so feel free to roam around with your mouse. You can click on this paperclip here for some more resources. Oh, did I do that? Oh yeah, right there. You can ask us anything with it. This is a new page for us here. So this question and answer. Feel free to ask us some questions, and we will answer them either right away or at the end of the webinar. Let us know how you feel with some reactions, emojis, hearts, thumbs up, polls and surveys. I think we have one in here. We like to keep things current events. We usually put some polls and surveys in there for the audience. Like I said, the resources are there as well too. You can register for more register for more. You can also register for more webinars. At the end of the show, we'll show you what's coming up. And we will also have today. We actually have a special on some lighting for people that are registered. There's a special 60-watt tube light that we're going to promote because we actually had some really good feedback from Mike and Becky in the development of this light. So stick around to the end, or send us a message if you that's what you're here for. Next up, a little bit about us. So Aelius LED, we've been doing this for the past 6 years. Started predominantly in the cannabis industry, but as you can see with this interactive website or webinar, if you've been joining us, 4 of the 5 webinars that we've done have been along the lines of produce and food security, and that we believe is going to be a market that it really takes off in the foreseeable future, not just because of the geopolitical turmoil that persists, but because we have a lot of people in this world. We're running out of arable land. So we just believe the next big thing is growing food indoors in a controlled environment, agriculture. Next up here, Mike and Becky. So Mike and Becky, like I said, Vertical Roots Canada. We got to know them over the past couple of years in developing the 60-watt light, and we really like their business model. We really do believe that small local farms will win out in the end as opposed to the big behemoths. Mike and Becky you're going to hear a little bit about their story, which is fascinating. They've been in a partnership in life and business, which is always scary. Married for nearly 25 years, entrepreneurs for over a decade. Was entrepreneurs before the marriage, so anyways, it's not always the easiest, but these two are really well spoken. They've been on CTV and Global News. Anytime there's topics or trending topics about food insecurity, their names pop up in the Edmonton area. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Mike and Becky.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure for us to be here together. Yes, we've been married 25 years in August.
Yep.
And yeah, I guess it's almost a decade since we started our first company in Canmore, Alberta. And it's been a journey since then. I guess we got into this industry actually just before the pandemic. We were living overseas in Asia, and we had built a couple pretty large greenhouses and did aquaponics back then, which is fish in the water, feed the plants, really basic version of that story.
No lights needed?
No lights needed because it was all, greenhouse and up in the mountains in the Philippines, and came home, and then the pandemic hit. I got bored, started testing out hydroponics, had never done it. That was a few short, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So it's been an intense journey for us from the beginning, like just throwing ourselves into the fire and learning and yeah. So that's where
now we're here.
Now we're here. Yeah. We started back 2000, I guess. Started testing at kind of November 8, 2000. No, I guess it'd be January 2019 probably. In a small little room. It was like not even 500 square feet, and I had no idea what I was doing.
There you go. That's the room right there in the slide.
That's the prototype.
You can see
that's the prototype.
That's a Quest dehumidifier, which I didn't know I needed until later. And then to the right of that is a furnace built into the farm room, which actually was our free CO2. And so that room there had just 3, 6, 9, 12 total beds, 300, 350 heads of lettuce and some kale. And then that sold out, and we knew we had to get from that model to a larger model. Simply just the numbers, right? You need to, produce a certain amount of product to make enough money to survive. And so I guess the next slide, we went into.
Yeah, we can go back here just for a sec. This is actually the expansion in Edmonton that we did. And we started with the first 2 racks. And then we kind of had a stage 1 on one rack and then just stage 2s on the other ones. And then as we began to grow and expand, we had to consolidate. Yeah. So that's definitely our first kind of large commercial Canadian grow.
Yeah, it's cheaper to go up than out, right? So as you can see there, those are our what we would call production beds. So our system, we come out of the nursery after a set amount of days, and then we go into a different, more dense, populated grow bed for 10 to 14 days, and then we come down into production. So a bit of labor in between, but it allows us to grow and harvest every week from each racks back and forth. So it increases our production extensively. Otherwise,
so this here is the water, Mike? These are the water?
Yeah, so those are just IBC totes, reservoirs of water. Our claim to fame has never been high tech and state of the art. We wanted to, from the beginning, I knew I was creating a license model like a franchise business. I knew that from the day I started, where we would be the master grower, quote unquote master grower, and we would support local people who had no idea what they were doing. And so this is the, keep it simple, stupid, the KISS method, right?
Yeah, you're going ahead of me there, love. I have that on a slide for you.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the water. You go back, I can show them. Yeah, that black thing is basically a recirculating system, shallow water culture, and the water that's kind of the reservoir. So if the system shuts off, it doesn't overflow onto the floor. It just holds the excess water.
Gotcha.
And those are early days. I remember setting that farm up, was minus 35 in Edmonton, and we had moved, and
we tried to move plants in minus 40. Like, we literally wanted to move our crop from Tofield to Edmonton. And I don't know what we were thinking. But it was very like, we had to get out of this space. They were taking over the space, and we had to get out. And we thought, well, we should have just stopped growing for 2 weeks is what we should have done. But we just sort of like, our clients need the product. We need to get the product. So we literally put garbage bags over these plants, put them in heated vehicles, and then drove 40 minutes to the city. And then by the time we got them back in the water, like, horrible. Amateurs, like, it was the most, we lost like 2 crops at least. We had to actually stop production 1 week and apologize to everybody. But everybody is just so, like, the community is incredibly supportive. So they know that we're expanding. They know we're trying to create solutions. And they just like, oh, just give me extra next week. We don't need refunds, or just sub in extra romaine if you can. And you just have this incredible kindness that comes from, people that local community that like to support local farmers.
Yeah, I mean, in the middle of all that chaos, we had severe pythium, which is root rot, obviously, because the roots are all dead. You throw them into the water and they're just going to die off. And so, at that time, I'd never experienced that. And so when I look back, I'm like, I know how to master pythium. Not that we get it now, but if it ever came up, I know exactly what to do in that situation and how to eradicate it and what to look for, etc. So you always learn, but in the moment you don't feel like that's because we were breaking ground. Like, there was nobody I could just phone and say, hey, like, this is what's happening, or I had a few people I could phone, but people had never experienced that. And so it's a really good learning opportunity for us as a team, I think.
Yeah, it's relatively new, and you're probably right. It probably did take off a lot when people didn't have anything else to do during COVID. So I'm sure there's a lot more of these mom and pop or garage type build outs, right? Nowadays you can find a lot on YouTube and Google, but at the end of the day, until you do your own trial and, like you say, your triumphs, you really don't know, right? It can all look nice.
Yeah, and in the beginning, before I started, when I was doing the business model and designing it and thinking, okay, here's this, here's that, here's what we're going to do different, I had interviewed, I won't say the names of the companies, which are no longer really in business now, but I had privy to some pretty large farm owners. And, they, in that time, they told me this will never work. Your model won't work. But there was just something in me that I could see this smaller medium farm across Canada in communities surviving more than a large shareholder driven, high overhead, relying on a master grower operation. And I think, we're by no stretch millionaires from this, but I'm interested in the long play, right? I think we talked about that the first time we met, Ryan, or chatted, was like, in business, I always say, like, I'd rather make $1,000 a year from you than $1,000 in like today and then have you forever. And it's like, I'd rather have clients be with us since day one, which we still have buying our product, because the longevity, right? It's how you sustain a business, and you walk, you don't run. And so at the beginning, it felt foolish. Now I'm kind of feeling like, oh, maybe we were actually onto something. And now it's just like we're spreading like wildfire. So we're really happy about that. Yeah.
I think you touched on something, like, Ryan, when you're talking about like small growers, mom and pop shops and stuff. And I think that was what we had to go from. We had to go from like a backyard grow to like a smaller kind of prototype. And then the challenge was going into more of a commercial large grow. And so nutrient management, like all these things that we have to now adjust, because it's not like you can just go buy like an A/B mix. Like, this is a very different grow, and you need to make sure you're testing your water, and it's different than just having something in your basement. A commercial greens grow is a completely different ball game. And so there's a lot of things that through our like so many learning opportunities that were so frustrating in the moment and sometimes devastating in the moment, but were our greatest tools, because now no matter what a farmer faces, we probably have the answer because we probably dealt with it. And so that's kind of where we like have to adjust, because now we're scaling, right?
Yeah. And I think
that's what I like about your business model. You're making this into a turnkey business model. So when some people, and we'll get to that slide too, when some people say, holy geez, it sounds like a lot for a farm, you're paying not only is the equipment expensive, but you got the installation and you got the 24/7 support and all those mistakes that you guys made on your own. That won't be happening as long as these farmers follow the SOPs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, now we're on so we built Tofield, then we built Edmonton, then we built Edmonton #2, then we built Leduc, then St. Paul. So we're 5 farms plus our 2 large operations in Asia. We're on our 7th, not including our little test thing in the back. So we've seen a lot, right? We've seen a ton. And I can tell you, over the years, I've hired consultants and fired them and paid a lot of money for them not to have the answer. And it isn't that they don't know what they're doing. It's what I've learned, and I think a lot of growers like me will say, is every room is different. And so we've tried to create a staple, same size room, same, amount of water, plants. And so we know what to expect. And the idea is, it's not that you don't find somebody that knows what they're doing. You find someone that knows what to do when it's not working. And I learned that in 20 years of IT, right? It's like, I didn't go to MIT, but I learned how to fix things when they were broken, as opposed to going through all these, like outlines and the steps. I mean, I could just from experience. And so I knew that as we experienced all the growing pains, those would just be notches on our belt that we would have, that we could utilize when we built other farms. Because I don't want, I don't want other farms and farmers having to deal with the same issues. So we've come up with solutions to eradicate them before they even happen, so. Yeah. So I guess this is, you go ahead, right? Or is this me?
Yeah, no, like this is just kind of the scaling, right? Like when you scale, you have to scale. So I think you covered that, just some custom things that you did with our Edmonton farm that we've rolled out into all the farms, like the custom airflow and some of the crop planning and the management. And like we've come a long, long way from like fans hooked onto the racking for airflow and, testing a lot of mixes, and now we have our own IP for nutrients and airflow, and it makes a huge difference. It makes all the difference, and that's what the farmers get, right? Is they can jump in like that.
It came down to like when I got a quote from companies to put in airflow systems in our farms, it was like astronomical. And so I thought, well, I don't even really like their system, so here's what I wanted to do. So then that's what we do as entrepreneurs. We just chase the hound. I went and found my own company that would develop what I needed. And then, I think we're 12 or 10 or 12 protocols in now, and we've got our airflow system developed, which is like an antimicrobial sock. So they're washable. They don't collect spores and things that, that normal plastic or PVC would. And so, and then we came up with our own aeration system for the water. Like we can aerate over 20, 25 beds of deep water culture on 100 watts of electricity. Everything else that was out there was astronomical. So I had always worked at running as efficient and low overhead as possible, because that's how you win in this game, right? So we're really proud of those things. And then we started working on something called SOPs. Like I didn't even know what that was when we started. Like, and then everyone uses these lingos, and I thought, like, what's an SOP? Like, sounds like a short for a curse. It's like they are a curse, by the way. But I thought, so we started developing these things, and then we realized that okay, if it's like McDonald's, Wendy's, like if your employees do ABC every day, you'll get the same result. And so we tried to replicate that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's been good.
So
the one thing I think that sets us apart is the offerings. And the offerings, there's not like different grow rooms, there's not different lights, there's not different nutrients. All of our offerings are offered in this same system. So they're all growing in the same nutrients with the same lighting in the same room. We don't do fruiting plants, obviously, because it is a different grow. But for what we're offering in the same system, we do have different crop cycles, so that some are faster, some take more time. But the offerings make it very viable for the farmer to, like Mike says, like, would you like fries with that? So you get 2-pack romaine, which is a hot seller, but then they're like, oh, I'd love some basil with that. So then they add in, and now you're, those, what do you call it? Sorry, like when you buy something, you add something to it, your cost.
Oh, what do you mean?
Like at the cart, your cart rate goes up. I think you know what I'm saying. But anyways.
Oh, you mean like the whole, like the value of a purchase from a client?
Yeah, I can always get the value up when you add more offerings. And so now you have all the herbs, you have the dark greens and spinach and the lettuces. When we started, we had like 3 lettuces and we were playing with kale. And now we have 5 herbs, 3 dark greens, and 3 lettuces. And orders have gone from like a $10 to $25, $30, $40, $50. And so this is quite... yeah, so that's been really great for us. I think. Do you want to ask?
By doing that, a lot of people don't even know that they wanted that, right? So
100%.
So there's a question if you want me to answer that one, Ryan.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
That's okay.
Let me see here. What we got here? Do you start your seedlings under the 60-watt tubes as well?
Yeah. So there's an important part of lighting in vertical farming, and it's called being overcapitalized. So no, we don't start our babies under 60-watt lights. Actually, I shouldn't say that. We are right now, because I didn't want to buy new lights for testing, but the goal is to get like what your maximum PFD would need for those plants, or your whatever your max light is, and then find the wattage that max it based on your canopy. And so what I mean is, if you had a 60-watt light, you'd be dimming it down to like 30%. And so you're losing all of that wasted money on upfront cost, right? And so you want to find, probably, I think I've tested 20, 24, and 30 watt, and they're not enough. I would say for our nursery, because I don't know what you're growing in, 40 watt would probably be where you'd want to be, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Of course, not on 100%, but.
Right. No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So these offerings that you guys have, are you getting more pre-orders, or are you just basically growing it and then they come?
No, so we kind of started everything with pre-orders, and we even did the prototype. We wanted people to pre-order, and we did a home delivery because you're on a crop cycle, and I wasn't interested in harvesting every day. And so what we did was we harvest probably 3 days a week. So Thursday at this Edmonton farm, it's Thursday, Friday, Sunday is the harvest. If there's a Saturday, and so we grow everything so that there's like in the second stage, it's like a 13-day, 14 days. And we have a few days to play with on the back. So it could stay in there for an extra 2 days and do a Sunday harvest. So they want to pre-order for the harvest on the weekends is how we do it. They can't come and buy lettuce all week long. We don't have a retail spot. We have a market in Edmonton that's year round, and we have farmers markets around Alberta that the farmers go to. But it's always kind of based on the crop cycle. And that way we've kind of trained the customer, I think, because if you pre-order, we want to deliver it fresh. So we harvest the same day as we deliver. That really guarantees the nutrient value of that product. And it also ensures it's as fresh as it could be.
Yeah. And the best representation of our product.
Yeah.
Like any grower knows you work your butt off to get it to where it is. And then you go into the store later, a week later, it's been sitting in a fridge or a truck.
Yeah, so no truck time, cooler time.
It looks horrible.
Yeah, so they do pre-order, and I think it works out really well. And then we have pickup partners. All of the farms have pickup partners, and they can pick a community where there's a local like health food store or like anything kind of the health and wellness is a great partner for us. And they open up their doors to us, and we go drop off all the product. We give them free lettuce that week, the owners of the managers of that place. So we build a partnership with them, but they also get foot traffic to their, vitamin shop. So we drive traffic there, and so it's kind of like a really nice partnership with local businesses as well. So that's kind of what we do. It's pre-order or a farmer's market is how we do it. And that allows us to crop cycle properly.
Yeah, we stay away from the distribution to grocery stores. When I did the math on what they're willing to pay per head, I won't name them, but we've been to one especially as they showed our product and wanted our product, and like what they were willing to pay per head, we couldn't even grow it for that much. So I believe that model's shifting. I think with all this geo stuff going on and all this tariffs and everything. People are just going to have to understand that we can't grow lettuce for $1 or 80 cents here. It's just, it's not possible. But the trade-off is great food, right? And so, we're more interested in providing great food than, so much about money. Like I had a call with a lady who called. I don't generally answer the phones, but when Becky's busy or the team's busy, I answer. And she's like, "Oh, wow, it's $5 a head." And I said, "Yeah." She said, "But I just bought lettuce for $3.50. And 2 days later, it's dead. I had to throw it out." And so I said, "Well, how much lettuce do you buy?" She said, "Well, I buy it every 2 weeks." I'm like, "Okay, so if you spent $10 with me, but you spent $7 at the store, you would have spent $14 because you have to go back and get more lettuce." And so all of a sudden, like the bells went off for her, and she's like, "Oh, yeah." And it's like we have to educate the people nowadays. It's like, yeah, it may be a little higher than the store, but it lasts 2 weeks in your fridge, especially for seniors and people who don't eat it every day. So we've worked on those things pretty hard because those are the things that matter at the end of the day, right?
Well, and also like there's a space for big commercial farms who want to do high volume and take up the Costco's and take up the Safeways. There's place for that because not every single person in Canada is going to go to a farmer's market or order online. They just want to go to Safeway or Superstore, purchase their product and leave. So there is a space for these big farms to come in, do distribution, sell for low cost per head. And, I know that a lot of companies that have done this have shut down because I don't know if the model is sustainable, but that's not our market. Our market is people that want local food. They want to know the farmer. They want to know where it comes from. And so now we serve over 22 communities, if not more. I know some farms have added a couple new communities in Alberta, but where your food's coming from. It's 100% clean. They love to have relationship with their food and with the people growing their food. So we know that there's quite a substantial market, especially now with everything changing towards support local Canada. And for us, it's Alberta, looking for local product. Like our Google searches have just exploded looking for local fresh produce, fresh lettuce. Of course, we come up because we've done the work. So we're going to show up for Alberta people looking for fresh local lettuce. But that's our model. Our model is not the grocery stores, because our model is the small, medium farms that can sustain a community, which secures the food for the community, because a big guy could go down. These farms are running quite a
Costco. I think it's every 3 years Costco puts out a bid war. Basically, they're like, okay, we were buying our romaine lettuce from here, and now we're putting it out for tender, and then everybody bids on it, and then whoever comes in the lowest then gets that deal. So imagine spending a couple $100 million building the farm. Your client is Costco. Sure, you're selling 500,000 heads a month, and then all of a sudden you can't compete. Now what do you do? And I've seen it 3 times happening. Been well connected in the US. I've seen it happen. And I remember speaking to quite a few large farm operators saying, if I could have charged 10 or 15 cents more per head, I would have made it. And I thought, man, like, that's how tight that world is.
Yeah, margins are so
the margins
tight.
are crazy at a grocery store. Yeah, for sure.
Totally. And the shelf, right?
For the buying, but the selling is, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've covered, like, it's important to talk about the local aspect, like these farms here. I'll just go back here. That Tess is the first, she kind of jumped in here with a 42 bed system.
48, yeah.
48.
5,000 square foot.
She definitely took the bull by the horns, but she's starting to use almost all of her systems. She has a ton of wholesale clients, and she's doing really, really well. St. Paul's, smaller market, 24 bed system, and they go all over to farmers markets. That's what they do. They do pre-orders, but they do lots of farmers markets, and people love it out there, especially rural Alberta. They're looking for garden style lettuce. They're looking for that year round. And so the communities have really just kind of come around these farmers and supporting them. And even now, like, it's gotten way better just because everyone wants local produce.
Yeah, like for instance, Leduc's got 15,000 as a population, and it's a 48 bed system.
Yeah,
like, we generally follow the 45 to an hour max distance for your selling area, right? Like, just based on the numbers, because I'm the numbers guy, like, kilometers in an hour, how much fuel you use, what's the imprint, the cost for someone you're paying $20-$25 an hour. They have to drive an hour, so you factor that in. If they drive an hour and they've only got 50 heads of lettuce, well, then all of a sudden your cost per head goes way up. So those are all factored in.
She also services, like, there's a lot of other smaller communities like Camrose, Wetaskiwin, Kalmar, Devon. Like, these are smaller communities, but there's a lot of, like, rural farming, small town people that are looking for fresh local produce, and it's not been available, and now it is. So that's kind of, I know it's a smaller rural that she services, but the support is pretty strong, because once you kind of know the community and the community knows you, well, they just take off with your product and sell it for you. Yeah,
and even more so nowadays, it's just going to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we've covered some of this, like the nutrient rich, the local income, like economic impact, food security. I think that's exactly what we were just talking about. So
I noticed
your packaging is just paper bags. Is there a reason for that, or?
Yeah, so we started, like, when we first started, where we're using, like, the plastic, like they do, right? In the stores, you see plastic, and we stuck them in there. I had one lady, her name is Nora, and she's been with us since Tofield, and she still has a subscription and still gets it every single week. And one day she sent a message saying, hey, would you mind just putting mine in a paper bag? I just don't like plastic. And do you think you could do that for me? So I was like, oh, yeah, for sure. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, this makes so much more sense, because what they can do is they can take the paper bag and the roots and compost it all together. Like, they can just go ahead and there's zero waste, like zero. And plastic, like, there's so many debatable things about it being recycled or not recycled. Is it even being recycled? Like, I think that plastic is a little bit of a 50-50 that it is going to be reused again. So going to paper bag, like, we prep the paper bag that we have pre-orders, because the roots are wet on the pre-orders for when we're harvesting right from the farm. So we put a paper towel on the bottom and we use paper bags, and it is different, and yet it's just like a zero waste concept. And it's just the way to keep it fresh too. Like it stays really well in the paper bag, to be honest.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like if they leave the market or they pick it up, they go home and process it. Like, sure, it's not a nice, fancy, colorful bag with, you know, our logo. And well, we have our logo on there. It's a black and white, black stamp. But for us, it just makes sense to do that way because it's not sitting in there for hours and hours, right? So,
now we do have a care card that we give to clients because I did notice like a lot of people when we started this whole thing, I would give a spiel and tell them how to care for it. And then I'd have people not order again. And I knew that they would really love the product. And then they didn't order and they said, oh, it spoiled really quickly. And I was like, what? Like, that doesn't make sense. So I realized, oh, people don't know how to care for the product. They're literally taking the paper bag and putting it in the fridge, which is like the worst thing.
And they're so used to washing it because the product that comes from the US and so forth has been heavily sprayed. And so the first reaction everybody does is soak it, you know, with bleach or whatever they do, like to get all the junk off. And like, well, you may as well. I think at the end of the day, people start washing it and then of course it just wilts, you know. And so
so we had to I'm like, oh, we need to educate. And so now they have a care card that goes with any new customer for the first 2 orders. So they know, like you take the pods off, you stick it in a Ziploc or a Tupperware container and you put it in the fridge, in the front of the fridge. And some people, what they do, and half of our customers do this, is they take a jar or a vase and they put their order and their roots in water and put it on their table. And they just take from it all week. So like, it really depends on, I put it as an option because so many people are using like it as a bouquet. But that was a big learning curve, was like, oh, I need to educate the consumer on how to take care of this product because it will last up to 2 weeks. I've had people come to me and say, my lettuce lasted 3 weeks. I went away to Mexico and then it was still good. And I'm like, yeah, I can't claim that because that, you know, people have different fridges and different care things. But honestly, it lasts a very long time if they follow the instructions. So I made sure to staple that to the bag now for new customers. And we've solved the problem. Obviously, people come back now because they know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's pretty neat. And I think that's the misconception with some of these local farms that, or these hydroponic farms, is those roots are staying on and that's actually increasing the life span of the produce itself.
Yeah, that's what makes it so nutrient rich, right?
Well, that it's taken up what it needs to take up because it's healthy in the system, but it's not like cut and shocked immediately, right? So I'm not even sure how long the roots extended. I just know it's less shock to the plant, and at the end of the day, that's what we're after, right? Is getting it to people as fresh as possible. So
yeah.
Oh, it's neat. Yeah, for sure. All right, here's our poll. Have you changed your buying habits to Canadian products, or are you making an effort to do so? And this is alluding to what's been going on here the last couple months. We're seeing a big initiative to buy Canadian. And again, we probably said that word like 100 times already, is the local aspect of it. And there's so many more benefits to buying local, not so much for some hard goods, but for perishable, 100%. I think it makes sense. So we'll let the people submit some of their answers here. And I see, just in general, I really see a cohesiveness from Canadians and standing together and really wanting to basically show our, I guess for lack of a better term, our big brother down there that, hey, you know what, we've grown up and we can take care of ourselves up here.
Yeah.
100% we can.
Yeah, and I think like we've always said at Vertical Roots that we won't solve the food crisis problem, but we're a very large, I believe, a very important proponent to local food security. And I've broken that down in my head over the last couple months. Like, we're securing the way for fresh produce, and that's our role, right? I mean, we can't grow potatoes, we can't grow corn, we can't grow wheat, you know, so we're only a piece. And I think it's important. I think it definitely is important for rural Canada because those places are the last reached and usually get the last bit of product, and the price is always higher. And I just believe that we can change that so we can secure local food. You know, and as a company, we haven't really raised our prices since the pandemic. Like, I mean, we're like, as long as our costs run, and we know how to run a company. And so if we can keep our costs effective, then like, we're not going to gouge, because in our opinion as a company, that's not community focused. That's shareholder mentality of, I'm going to make $100 today and you may never come back. And I'm like, no, I'd rather make $100 every month from you forever. And that's a slow play. It's a long cycle, but it will pay off.
I never forget when CTV News did in November 2022, the romaine crisis of Canada, where no one could find romaine lettuce. They were coming off the menus. It was seen that there's no Caesar salads. Like, it was a crisis. And of course,
like toilet paper crisis.
It was just like there was no romaine lettuce to be found. And they came and interviewed us at the market. And they were just like, so are you raising your prices? Because obviously we're selling them for $5 or $6 a head at that point. And I'd say we were like more of a bougie lettuce because lettuce was $1.99. And so there was a lot of education that was happening to help people understand it lasts twice as long. It's, it's a better buy. And so we had to educate.
Especially chefs, yeah.
But then they asked us that, and we're like, there's just no need to raise prices. We already know our numbers. We know this is a good number for us. There's no reason to gouge the community because we now are in a power position. And just because I'm in a power position does not mean that I get to take advantage of you. What it means is that I get to actually serve you in a much better capacity than a big box. I can actually come to the table with an offering that is not taking advantage of you. And so that was a big deal for us. And we don't, if electricity, if we had issues with electricity costs, that might cause an increase in price. But as long as our costs stay relatively the same, which they do most of the time, we should not have to raise our prices, even in a crisis. We can maintain our prices. And so that's something that sets us apart. And again, we're community focused, right? We're not the big corporates that's trying to get the shareholders, taken care of. We're literally, wanting to serve the community. It is a profiting, it's profit. It's not non-for-profit, but we're not trying to gouge or take advantage of people just because we have a power position.
Yeah, why should people really comforting to see, right? Because more often than not, supply demand rule 101 in economics, right? There's more demand, less supply, you raise your prices. But no, kudos to you for being able to do that. And I think the efficiency of your farms allows you to do that as well too, meaning that these customers will keep coming back, and you're only going to raise them, like you said, if it really means you have to raise them. And you can see from our poll here, most people, 3 out of 4 people are basically saying, yeah, it's a big deal. Let's start supporting local. And then obviously it depends on price and access. And you're always going to get that feedback as well too. And that comes back to your point, right? If you don't raise it too much, then yeah, for most things, we'll definitely try to buy local. And as Dennis says here in the group chat, hyper local for the win, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it can be a cliche too at the end of the day, but I always say, why should people have to pay for my bad business decisions? So like, if I can't run an efficient, profitable company and know my numbers, because knowing your numbers is number one in any business, then, I shouldn't wake up one day and be like, oh, I should raise my prices because I made some bad decisions. That sounds maybe black and white, but that's the reality of it is, until we have to, we won't. And so,
Exactly.
So all right, and is that the slide we're on now?
Slide number 15.
Lighting the way. Yeah, so this is the Leduc farm.
Quite a difference looking than our very first one. You could see, like, we really
well
simplified,
thought out, well laid out, clean. I noticed all your farms are clean. I guess that's pretty important, especially if you're telling people you don't have to wash your lettuce.
100%.
It really looks really well
washed. Yeah, and that that there is it looks pretty, but there's a lot of science behind that for airflow, because the number one issue right now, not right now, but the number one issue in vertical farming is airflow and humidity and temperature in the beds, right? So, that's designed that way. And when we ventured out to start this, I was using a company in the US for their lights, and when I first got my first order, which was a lot of money, I think it was $20,000 or $30,000 or whatever it was at the time. They sent me the wrong lights. They were double the wattage. It was just a horrible experience. But here I am stuck Actually, I didn't have enough lights. I had to run perpendicular to the bed, which was not my design. And so we didn't get off very well on. So then I began testing a whole bunch of lights. And I kind of settled on our other farm, that first slide you saw, with a whole mix mash of different lights, different spectrums, different everything. And so Aelius sent me a light
You forced the light on you.
And I was like, what in the world? I didn't order this. Definitely didn't order this 20-watt light. And so the long story is, you know, it's brilliant marketing, because I got on the phone, immediately got Ryan, and I said, hey, like, what's the deal? I didn't order these. And so we began the relationship. And one thing we talked about way back then, I don't know if you remember, Ryan, but we talked about how these lighting companies develop lights. They don't talk to the grower. They put it on the market, and then they hope people will buy it.
Yeah, come get it. You're right. Well, it's a perfect example. We sent you a 20-watt light, right? We were so new in the industry. We wanted to make a splash, and most people, actually, a couple of people actually send those lights back. But you were nice enough to give us a call and say, hey, what's this all about? And you're right. We wouldn't even have the right wattage for a farm like yourself, right? I mean, the 20-watt lights are decent for cloning and maybe some microgreens, but you really showed us with your feedback and the collaboration between Vertical Roots Canada. We knew your story. We knew you knew what you were talking about. So it worked really well in conjunction, coming up with the right spectrum, the right wattage, how many lights to spread across a 4-foot bed. No, we really appreciate it. And you really helped us get to this model where we're at today.
Yeah, and for me, it was always the cost. Okay, the cost of the light, but then the cost to install the light. So, because I'm always thinking, okay, when I'm building a farm, how long is it going to take? And I remember in the very early days, people telling me to hang it with airplane hanger wire and stuff. Like, and anybody that knows me is I'm pretty black and white, and I'm very OCD. So I'm like, all I could imagine was those 3 lights being 2 mils off. And when you look down the farm, they would all be like this. But then I got to more practical. It's like, well, if this light's here and this light's here, well, those plants aren't getting the even lighting, right? So it was all about even lighting. And so it began to evolve. And, you know, part of that was that light you developed was just a single plug between, built in with the low voltage and the power, and which made our installation life a lot more simple.
No, that's good. That's good. And yeah, I mean, we've obviously, like I said, we've grown together. We figured out some daisy chaining issues that we had at the start, but there's always, where there's a problem, there's always a solution. And we thank you for your patience throughout all this in customizing it and getting this. Well, there's a perfect slide. Custom lighting. It's exactly what we're doing. Like you said, we listen to guys like yourself and ladies like yourself, Becky, in regards to how to grow and what would work. And we're not afraid to try, right? We're not afraid of trying different spectrums, different power. So yeah, custom lighting, Canadian company, which is always great nowadays, right? I mean, you can just pick up the phone. We're 2 time zones away. And ongoing design options. We're always looking to push that envelope and see what can actually push these plants to the most efficient growing pattern out there. And we got some questions here. Do you control the water temperature as well as room temperature?
Yeah, so we don't control water temperature because water basically takes on the ambient air temperature. So if your ambient air temperature is too cold or too warm, your water will follow.
Okay, so it'll eventually get there.
Basically, water is a big battery, and the reason we went deep water culture as opposed to NFT or these towers that are out there and so forth, maybe not so much towers, but the NFT stuff, is because it takes a long, I mean, you've boiled a kettle, right? Like, how many people fill a kettle, push the button, stand there? It's like worse than a toaster, and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. Like, to change the temperature of that water, you know, takes 30, 40 a minute, right? So with, you know, 10,000 liters of water or gallons of water, it takes a long time to shift that water temperature, which then allows for stability in your system. So it's a good question, because in the early days, I didn't have a large enough HVAC system to cool the air. and my temperature, my water was climbing 23, 24. So I went and got one of those, cool water cooling. I forget what they're called, the water cooler. And like all I could think of was how much this is costing me and how long it took to lower the temperature. And so now what we do is we have a threshold and we don't go over that. And if our room temperature is good, then our water temperature is good. And that's how we balance out the room. I mean, it plays into the uptake of nutrients and all those things. But yeah, I'll just say this, our water temperature is never over 22, ever. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Another question here for you, Mike or Becky. You mentioned the number of beds per farm. What does that translate to for weekly production?
So we do all of our sales or our talking about our farm size based on production beds. So like I said, we go nursery to the baby stage to then production. So when I say a 24, 36, 48 bed, it means production beds. So it's a very hard question to answer because with the herbs, you can grow more in a 2x4 raft than you can with lettuce, right? But generally, our smallest system we build will grow somewhere between 500 and 700 heads or pods to sell. So forget calling it heads, but pods to sell. Our 24 bed can go 13 to 1500 heads or pods per week, mixture between lettuce and herbs. So that's 6,000 to 7,000 a month. And then our 24, so then you 32. Go 32 bed can do, I don't know, anywhere from 1,800 upward. And then of course our 48, that's the thing with our systems is if you go from a 24 to a 32, we've built the infrastructure so that your upfront cost is really low. So you can actually grow in a same room with a 32 bed, which will produce about $8,000 to $10,000 in revenue more per month with a very low change in your overhead because the system is sized for expansion. We're always oversized. So HVAC, you're always oversized so that you're never stuck at your max, right? And so that oversizing, just based on what's available in the market, allows us to go to a 32 and then to go to a 48. It's a very small addition of not even an air conditioner, but more dehumidification, right? Because water in, water out, that's how we measure our dehumidification. It's really simple. And so just adding a dehumidifier is very low overhead compared to the revenue that you get back from that, right?
Well, and also weekly production will depend on what you want to grow. So we have lettuces and herbs and kale and spinach, and so that will change. And so we provide the farmer with a crop planning Excel sheet, and they can go in there, and maybe they want to have a herb farm and they just want to have lettuce on the side. They could punch in what that looks like in
number of rafts
for this 24 bed system, and then it'll punch out what their production is and what the profit margins are and their costs. And so these sheets are all ready. Mike's worked really hard on preparing all of these crop planning sheets. So you have how many heads do you want to grow? You can play with the number. So you're what? I have a lot of people that want romaine, but I'd like to see the spinach market. So I'm going to add in some spinach, take away some romaine, and then it'll kind of pop out what that looks like for production and what it looks like for profit margins and cost to grow. So these sheets are provided to our farmers, and then they can play around with their own crops. We don't mandate what they grow. They have to use our seeds. They have to use obviously the system is in place for them to use. But when it comes to what they grow, every community is different, and every needs of the farmer will be different. So they can go ahead and kind of plan their weekly production based on the needs of the community and how they want to grow.
Right. Yeah, and I see a lot. Sorry, go on, Mike.
No, I was just say compared to a container farm or something. I've had some influence in a few container farms in the East Coast, just helping them out. And I've seen those systems inside out, and they're not built correctly. So they come out of the nursery, they go into the tower or wherever, and then they sit in that spot for 30 days or 28 days. Then they get harvested, but then you got to start that whole cycle again. And so what we do is a crop rotation that allows us to produce a lot more in the same amount of space. And that's the key, right? Is we know that it costs us X dollars to grow a pod, not a plant, one pod. And so we know what we can and can't sell it for, and where we can discount things, right? So everyone's like, well, my system can grow 5,000. Your system only does this much. It's like, yeah, but you say that, but that's per month. Ours is per week. And it's always going to be higher just because we're rotating out those spots every week, right? So, yeah, hope that makes sense.
And, yeah, totally. And I remember going back to your product list, a lot of it's leafy greens and herbs. Do you have any plans for expansion to different produce?
Yeah, I mean, in the Philippines, we had 1,000 cucumber plants, 1,000 tomato plants, and 300 to 500, I forget what it is now, it's been so long ago, of the bell peppers. And we had strawberries. So in the valley where we live, strawberries were very popular. To be honest with you, like a hydroponic strawberry does not taste as good or as high quality as an aquaponics or field grown strawberry. I would love to do a strawberry farm. I'd love to do a tomato farm,
like fruiting crops.
But again, your labor is so high because of the maintenance on the plant. I have a few ideas of what I'd like to do in regards to cutting costs to do that. But for us, we thought, you know what, let's get 10 farms done across Canada by this date, and then we'll start approaching those things, because the capital investment's a lot higher also. And I think I feel
what
like
a good segue into this.
Yeah, like I didn't even know that. I just know that's part of our DNA of our company is like, one, we're going to create a brand that people trust so they know they're going to get good food. And then we need the government and other local people to catch on that this is sustainable, because the banks will not lend money to vertical farming. It's just non-existent. They've put us into the whole hydroponics world, and banks have taken a hit on a lot of those, and so have investors. The problem is the company is not asset rich unless you buy the building and you have something to put up against the money you want to borrow, right? So, you know, we have a plan. I'm not sure that I've seen a huge increase in price in tomatoes, really. Like, if I could grow eggs right now in the US, I'd be a billionaire, right? Apparently. But like, we can't, I don't know if we could compete on the market with tomatoes. But I will say that whole, would you like fries with it? Like, they buy the romaine, their kale from us, and all of a sudden we're offering tomatoes and cucumbers. Well, now we've got warm leads, right? So
we'd have to test it out and do like, use your, you know, magic sheets and just put in the labor costs and the man hours, and then see what that looks like, and see if it's worth it. But definitely want to test, you know, I miss our fruiting. Like when we did that in the Philippines, the cherry tomatoes and cucumbers, like you just never tasted anything like it. It's like candy.
Like 30 odd feet long and grew for 11 months. Like I had never experienced that. You know, so I know that, you know, it's probably a really good moneymaker, but I don't know, walk before you run, I guess. And that's, you know, as me, I'm a dreamer. I'd probably have 10 different farms with 10 different crops, like, and probably do none of them well. So,
that's it.
You know, it's taken me a lot just to focus on this. And
we want to do one thing well. So we have diversified into herbs and some dark greens, but like same system, same nutrients, same lighting. We want to make sure that we get this
not the same nutrients per se. Like the fact that we went from lettuce, kale, right to spinach and basil, and anybody who grows know that different nutrients get taken up a lot heavier.
Yes.
Like a romaine lettuce as opposed to a leafy green, and then spinach compared to a basil, like they're night and day. So I think I spent 2 more hours this morning just working out numbers on our nutrients, because getting lab results back going, why are these plants consuming so much of this and not that? And, you know, just balancing it out. So,
but again, that's what you do.
Yeah.
the farmers don't have to do anything. Like they literally can walk into their farm. That's right. I think that's the biggest thing is like Mike said, like we want to keep it simple, stupid. Yeah.
Would you call me?
Yeah. Are you allowed to say stupid anymore?
Yes. She just likes to look at me when she says it.
So anyways, what I was saying.
So you're mentioning lab results. How often do you guys test this product? Every crop?
Well, we invested quite a bit of money in time into having our own internal lab. So we bought a whole bunch of equipment. We were testing weekly. I got the trends. And so then we would adjust our concentrate to match, because we use a 9-part or 10-part concentrate that we make our own. We don't buy, jacks or something from the store and put it in, because none of them are balanced for what we're doing. And so we know exactly what's going in our water and what's in it. We use the highest quality product that we can get, and a lot of chelating agents with our micronutrients, because those are the ones the plants can take up the best. So right now we're doing once a month. Every reservoir gets tested, and then either we do manual adjustments or we keep going with the concentrate. And again, as you can imagine, like as farms change their growing, right?
Yeah, because that happened
like, all
to
of
us.
a sudden it was like, oh, we have another restaurant needs 500 pounds of basil, and they didn't necessarily tell me that. Oh, by the way, we threw an extra 3,000 heads of basil into our farm. And I thought, geez, where did all the magnesium go? And so, we've created systems for that now. If we want reporting from you on what you're growing, but getting your water tested in a lab is like.
We do it once a month for the farmers.
It's growing 101. Yeah. Like it once a month is enough now, because I've got, 3-4 years of trends, right? That I know not exactly, but I can have a really good idea what's in there. So, yeah, that's very vital to growing. Yeah.
Good point. So if somebody wanted to join your family as opposed to actually be a farmer, one of these turnkey farmers in a building that they currently own, or they're looking at purchasing, I see the minimum starting investment here is 185,000 Canadian. I'm assuming. What size farm would that be? Yeah,
they want to pay US. That's fine. We'll take it. That would be a 16-bed farm. Yep. Basically 16 and 8. It'd be 8 beds of babies and 16. So you'd get 8 beds of production times 4. So you'd have 32 rafts to sell basically every week. That model is more mom and pop, retired or a young couple. And I'm not really sure numbers, but it can offset somebody's job and create a lifestyle business where you could be home with your kids, be in the markets in the community. And I understand, I'll say this, like more of a heartstring kind of comment, but like I understand what it looks like from the outside looking in, from the big players in the industry, right? Like we look like a little backyard growing operation, and it doesn't look as ooh ah as these big pictures you see on TikTok and all these massive things, but we're serving a different purpose, right? So it took me a good 1.5 years to get my head out of that cloud and be like, no, wait a minute, we are serving a different purpose. And so now when I talk to people, like I just have 5 or 6 people right now that are in the hopper for discussing building farms. And every single one of them is seeking a life change to have a family style run business to get out of the rat race. They're not even really concerned if they're going to be millionaires or how much they're going to make. And I thought that's always been our model. Now, as you go up to the 32 and 48 bed, you can really, do well, very well, actually. And we're okay with having all of those in between. It doesn't always have to be a 48, 64, or 80 bed system. I'm sure they'll come. We've got 64 bed in Leduc. I know that St. Paul's got 5,000 square feet. That's going to easily reach 100 beds at one point. They've got another 5,000 square feet. But they're walking before they run too. They're just waiting for the right opportunity. So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And if somebody did want to learn more, there's an apply here button right here that you can just click on the link and
fill in the info.
To the application. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, any building really. It's minimum 1,500 square feet, and higher the better, and right up to
how high have you gone, and how high can you go?
Leduc is 14 foot is the top. So we do that really because OH&S, for like when you get up to a certain height, a working height, there's rules and just people's comfortability up there, and rolling ladders and all the things that we do that are, like sure you can get a machine that you use, like you've seen them at Rona or Home Depot, and it's a single man. Or if you ever went to Uline, it's like its own little traffic circle in there, and they're on these beep beep and they're driving around, and that's a totally different world that we'll probably shouldn't say never, but it's not our model. So 14 foot high at the last. So I guess your working height would be I don't know, 11, 12 feet. But we've now condensed our rooms. So basically our farms right up into 32 beds will be 2 runs, and then 48, 64, excuse me, as you go. So the idea is to make it as simple and as modular and as efficient as possible, right? So,
and allowing people to scale up, like, and that's part of the reason why you do maximize a lot of the equipment that you have in there.
yeah, and it's a rolling start, we call it. Basically, we build the infrastructure. We turn on 8 beds, 16 beds, 24 beds. You roll into it. You learn the room. There's a lot of learning. Anybody that's a grower listening or watches this back, as you know, like you watch the room, and when the plants get to their full cycle, then all of a sudden humidity increases, and temperature. And that's the other thing I'll say about the lights we use with the Aelius is I was super impressed with the heat load that comes off the lights. When I'm designing these rooms, like you've got all the BTUs from the dehums and the lights and the plants and all those things, and like having that next to zero heat come off those lights is like a game changer for me, because that wasn't the case in the lights I tested. But when you've got 200-300 lights running and they're putting off temperature off the lights, it's like you've got to compensate for the cooling of that, right? So, yeah.
You sure you haven't seen this, Mike? Like that, you're even talking into the lights now. So this is the 60 watt tube that you were just talking about how.
Well, she's got her phone down here and it's not showing me.
No. I was just having our slides open. So
I'm just saying. I didn't memorize this. I promise.
No, you don't know what's going on.
This is good, and this is basically in regards to what you guys have done, not just for the communities where you are, but how you've helped us out as well. So for anybody that was registered, I know there was close to 40 people that registered for this, or 40 or 50. So we want to give everybody this exclusive pricing for limited quantities that we still have here on the shelf. We're always, like I said, we're always looking to at the spectrum and pushing the envelopes. So we're always trying different things. But as of right now, this is tried and true and tested by yourselves. It works. So for a limited time, there's a pricing there. Just click on the links to find out more, ask questions, send some emails.
I'll take 5,000 boxes.
Limited. Oh, we're all up.
Yeah. Sold out.
I'll say, if you want to go back, Ryan, to that, because we didn't really allude to the lights per se, but if anybody that knows anything about lights, can we go back one? You can see there's one version of far red and one version without far red. Right? And so
the far red that Mike's talking about, it's a nanometer in the 730 to 750 range, and you are using that more in the flowering stage for yourselves.
So we don't flower with lettuce, but because that would be horrendous. Like we don't want that.
Sorry, not flower. Stage 2, it's called.
Yeah. So, but actually, what we do is the reason we wanted that far red was it was back in the day when we first started with you, like. Kind of that far red was just being tested in the horticulture world. I don't know if it's yet to be proven, but what I've seen is larger leaf size, right? So that's kind of an industry standard almost now. It's not a secret anymore, but like larger kale leaves, larger romaine leaves. We try and stay away from it with our red and green leaves lettuce, because otherwise they just become real floppy.
A little bit floppy.
People love the big leaves, but then they get weighed down. They take up too much space, whereas we'd rather a tighter head. So we go with the non-far red. And I haven't personally seen a huge increase in the nursery with far red and not far red, but I know like the blues and stuff help in the nursery a lot. The other thing I'll say, the last thing is a plug for the lights, is they're very universal. Like we're growing all of those products or those plants under the same spectrum, other than the far red. But we do have beds where they are in far red. It's really important. And I would say the quality of the LED, the actual lighting, is a result. Like people focus on the temperature, nitrogen, nutrients for taste, but lighting is just as important. And one thing we get returned from customers constantly is how great tasting our lettuce is. And don't discount what a good light can do for the taste of your product. It's one thing to grow it and make it look pretty, but for it to not taste like crap, it's a very important part to what we do. So that's another healthy plug for the lights. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Again,
how many come in a box, Ryan?
4.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that.
So they'll be shipped out in a box of 4.
Yep.
And if you need any extension cords or whatnot, you can just get a hold of our sales team. So like I mentioned earlier at the, pardon me?
Which are excellent, by the way.
Oh, good.
Your
Thank
team.
you.
Yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
they are. Yeah, we're only as good as our weakest link, and we like to think we don't have any. So
yeah, nice.
We have a lot of
the webinar series. The webinar series, like I mentioned, we have one Sylvain, who's one of our first guys that we had on. He's a cannabis grower, but you can see where the trends are going, right? And Mackenzie is Sydney, they're out east in Newfoundland. They're growing hydroponically or in a greenhouse. And who else there? There's yourself and Saeed. He's in a strawberry farm. So you're seeing more and more people interested in this controlled environment agriculture, and especially being in the north, you're going to see more of that trending. And as people learn about this, they're going to want to know more information. And people at webinars like this, or just reaching out to yourselves with the business model about the small local farm, now's the time. If you're ever thinking about getting into it, now's the time to actually hit that apply button to find out more.
Yeah.
And I do think, like, as you know, we've had people inquire like from the cannabis world, because obviously the cannabis world has a lot of like
it's suffering.
It's suffering, and they have a lot of materials, and you know, switching from cannabis to greens, it's a very different it's very different. It's not like you can just like turn a switch and switch over from cannabis to greens. Like, this is a very different grow. And so the one thing is, like, we've kind of done all the work, right? We've done all of the R&D, all of the legwork. So like, if someone did have some sort of like grow that they want to switch over to greens,
we get a lot of those applications.
You know, definitely like there's a learning curve, and you're going to have to change over some of the stuff that you have, but it's definitely the direction that you can recover some of that, you know, because I know that people have lost, maybe they're sitting with a grow that's not growing anymore. Because greens is the way to go.
It's not making money.
Yeah. So definitely, like, it's not like we have a lot, I'm just going to switch over. And I'm like, well, there, you know, it's not that easy actually just to switch over. It's not like that. There's a science to greens and what we do. So kind of paved the way. Instead of doing like 2 years of learning, you literally could just like adapt and come into the family and have everything at your fingertips without having to do the R&D and learn it. You literally could just have a farm in 6 to 8 weeks and be up and running. So I my heart goes out to a lot of these people that went into the cannabis industry and invested millions, hundreds of thousands, or just thousands if they invested in a company, because it suffered so badly. And this is now where they're trying to turn. So, you know, we don't consult right now. We're strictly for our farmers. Our farmers are the ones who get 100% of Mike and 100% of me. But definitely once you come in the family, you know, then that's a kind of an easy way to go.
Yeah, 100%. It just makes sense. All right. Speed up that learning process, and profitability will come a lot quicker. So nice thing about this webinar too, it is on demand. So if you did miss it, whether you registered or you got here late, you can rewatch this, and you can still do all the interactiveness. So you can still ask us questions. They're going to be forwarded to yourself and ourselves, and we can answer those questions for you right away. So other than that, the hour's already gone by, hour and 9 minutes. So thank you for everybody for sticking around, stuck all the way through it. Mike, Becky, like I said, it's always good to have you guys. When we're chatting, we always feel like we've learned a little bit more after spending some time with you. So thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. It was a pleasure, and chat soon.
Okay. Chat soon.